This is episode 36 double D.
What? 366, baby. 366. Is that significant? 366 significant for anything? All right, lead heads. We are back with another episode of... What are we back with, guys?
The Talking Lead Podcast.
Thank you. Yes. Did you forget what you were doing? Do you think you were on Joe Rogan?
No, I just forgot. I forgot where I was for a minute.
You had a brain fart. That's easy to do. This late at night, too. I think this is the latest we've recorded, but started recording anyway. We've gone a lot later than this. But we're back. I took a little break. So you guys, if you were wondering if we were ever going to come back or not, I just took a little break. I mean, just a few days in between posts here. I wanted that last episode to get as much traction as possible because we had James with Factory 47, and we announced the launch of our new line of hoodies, T-shirts, tumblers. We've got 10-ounce, 30-ounce tumblers, and what's the other thing? T-shirts. And our T-shirts. And we got two-sided print on the hoodies and the T-shirts. So make sure you guys go to factory47.com, and you can do a search. Just type in AK Corner, and that's corner with a K, K-A-K-A, K-O-R-N-E-R, and it'll bring up all our stuff. And we've even got, now we've got shirts specifically for females, for you lady lead heads out there. They got that nice cut that accentuates all the best parts of being a female. You know what I mean?
Those T-shirts also available in a non-binary form?
Absolutely. That's what the hoodies are all about.
Okay. They only have one string, though, right? It's just one string
on the hoodies. No, they're two. We got two strings on the hoodies. Two strings, two print sides. Even on the tumblers, we've got double printed sides on the tumblers too. So you're going to get our awesome Season 2 Talking Lead AK Corner logo, and then on the back of that, you get some of the more popular factory markings from AK-47s on the back. And Factory 47 actually put their logo on there too, which is really cool. So go check them out, Factory 47, and use the code LEADHEAD. You're going to get 10% off. Make sure you go back and listen to that episode because James, we got to talk about James and his background, and he's a pretty interesting cat. So you're not going to be disappointed in the content of that episode. We didn't just talk the shirts and the mugs and all that the whole show. We actually had a good show. So go back, check it out, episode 365, Factory 47, James, and he calls it Bialzak, Bialczak. So the episode prior to that was our series that we've been doing here with our good buddies Brian and Jay, which you heard. They are on here with me today. So welcome in, Brian, Jay.
Great to be here as always.
And it's Brian with Occam Defense Solutions and Jay with the League of Pirates. And, we've got election coming up, the big presidential election. Have you guys aware of this? Have you heard anything about it?
No, that dropped off my radar. I totally forgot all about it. I was like thinking about boobs or something.
Yeah, right. So I mean, there's other things going on, and just in case you weren't aware, leadheads, there, presidential election coming up here in the next few days, and we want you to be prepared for whatever the outcome may be. So we're gonna break a little bit from our talks on liberty, and this kind of goes along with it. Also, wouldn't you guys say, as being a good, responsible, prepared citizen?
Yeah, liberty starts with self-ownership. Sorry, Jay, what were you going to say?
I would say that the individual mandate is the cornerstone of liberty.
There you go. So we're going to give you some tips, tricks, things to think about for this election. Hopefully you've already started doing a lot of this because, like I said, we're only a couple of weeks away, so you need to get your shit in gear now. and get prepared. So we're going to help you with that in this episode with Brian and Jay. And again, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to be on and joining the Leadhead Brigade here on episode 366. So making this possible are our sponsors. Make sure you go and show them all the love that they deserve and more, especially through these times. Everybody's struggling really hard right now, every industry. The firearms industry is no stranger to that. Despite all the news that you're hearing, that record gun sales and blah, 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 it's still tough for these companies to get the components and parts that they need to continue making these products. So just like everyone, they're struggling and trying to keep above board and keep the products out there, keep customers happy. So just be patient with these companies during this time. Everybody is trying their damn hardest, guarantee it. And our sponsors are no strangers to that. So go show Kel-Tec some love, keltecweapons.com. We're actually going to have them on in an upcoming episode. The Sub 2000, the CQB, their integrally suppressed Sub 2000, has officially been released. We talked about it a few months ago. They released it at SHOT Show. We got some hands-on with it there, and we talked a little bit about it. But we're going to get Kel-Tec on. Of course, that means Kel-Tec Chad's going to be joining us, your favorite. And we're going to talk a little bit of the CQB. And, of course, Chad's always got an opinion, a political opinion about things, too. So he'll chime in on, I'm sure, the elections and the riots and all the things that are going on as well. So that's going to be a good show coming up. Make sure you check that one out. Modern Spartan Systems, I was just informed that their website, they got a new website. So I didn't know their old one was down. So if you've been trying to go there and use that code, TLCP15, probably hasn't been working for you, and I apologize. I didn't know that. Marcus just informed me the other day. But they've got a new website. It's up, and all that should be working again. They've got some new products also that we're going to be talking about in some upcoming episodes. So stay tuned for that. Some stuff you guys are really going to be excited about. So I can't wait for that. And then, of course, Fiocchi Ammo. Been talking with those guys here recently too, and they're cranking out that ammo just as much and as frequent as they can too. So just check your dealers, and if they're not carrying the Fiocchi, make sure you ask for it by name. Fiocchi Ammo. You go to Fiocchi USA, and hit all these sponsors up on their social medias, and let them know that you're Leadheads and that you appreciate them sponsoring the show. And then, of course, our good buddies over at Mission First Tactical. Use that code Leadhead there. You're going to get 20% off. Had one of you Leadheads send me a message. You're looking for a holster for your wife. And, Mission First Tactical is a great place to go. What kind of gun did you say she had here? And this is Larry Kozel. And looks like she's got a Smith & Wesson Shield. So I guarantee you Mission First Tactical's got one for the Smith & Wesson Shield. And the great thing about them is you can have things custom printed on those holsters. It's that injected molding ink, so it doesn't scratch off. It's in there. It's going to last for the life of that holster. And, you can get anything you can think of on there. I don't think they'll do vulgar stuff, but, for instance, I had one made for last Valentine's Day for Pepper, and she's a big Friends fanatic. And I had this cool little Friends thing done up for her on her G43 holster. So get in touch with them, and they can do some cool shit like that. And then, of course, they've got their furniture for the ARs. I wish they'd bring their AK furniture back. I think that's something they're working on. But they've got that, and then they've got our Talking Lead tactical dump trays and wallets there also. So you can get those over at Mission First Tactical too.
Keith likes everything about the great outdoors. He's a lot like us. Whether we're bow hunting in the backcountry or plinking in the backyard, we want to enjoy each experience to the fullest. Kel-Tec's .22 caliber P17 is Heath's go-to pistol for a good time, on the range, on the trail, and anywhere in between. Weighing in at only 14 ounces with a full magazine, Its compact size makes it easy to conceal or tuck away in a small pack, pocket, or space. It comes out of the box ready with a fiber optic front sight, a threaded barrel, a Picatinny rail, and a price point for any budget. With 3 16-round magazines, it's ready for hours of pure unadulterated enjoyment. It's easy, it's affordable, it's accurate, and it's a damn sweet marvel of plinking innovation. The Kel-Tec P17. It's more bang for less buck.
So, guys, Brian and Jay.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, boy.
So I've been telling you guys we've been getting some great response from our episodes that we've done, the last couple episodes we've done together. And from Larry, who I just was talking about, he's buying a holster for his wife. He posted this a while back, and it says, I try to stay away from these leftist social media sites, but have misses the leadhead community. I don't know what that, but have missed the leadhead community, but I don't know. I don't know how to interpret that. But anyway, his point is he tries to stay away from the leftist social media sites. So if you remember, was it last episode or episode 4 last, we were encouraging our listeners, you need to be paying attention to these people. You need to be going to their sites and seeing what they're up to and what they're doing. And he says after listening to episode 362, 364 on natural law, volunteerism, true liberty, as well as current events, I am sitting here trying to stomach the debates and wish we could have Lefty and Brian do a live stream. See, I want I want to thank Lefty for the amazing AK Corner podcast. Well, that's you can thank Brian for that also because he's a supporting sponsor with Occam Defense Solutions. Century Arms also, make sure you go show Century Arms some love. We want that season 3, so the more you guys harp on them to bring back season 3, the quicker and better we can make it. But it says it's going to be a long off season. Well, hopefully not too long. I mean, we're looking at hopefully January bringing it back. And then even more so, thank him, Brian, and Jay for the much-needed recent podcast on current events and NAP.
Awesome. Really happy that people are finding it useful. It's terrifically rewarding for us, for sure.
Yeah, and then he goes on. He made this post on Facebook, so if you guys want to go to our Facebook page, he did that under the community post there. It says, I hope to see more current event, liberty-based podcasts in the upcoming months. God bless and keep up the good work. So thank you, Larry, for sending that in. And there have been, I mean, I can't tell you how many of you leadheads have sent me emails, private messages stating how much you've enjoyed these series of shows. So we're going to keep bringing them to you, and we're going to continue that today also. But first, I mean, as always, guys, we've got to take care of some jack wagons, and we need to honor some heroes too. So, Gunny, bring that train in.
Hoorah, Semper Fi, do or die, hold 'em high at 8th and I. It is time for the Talking Lead Jack Wagon of the Week, so brace yourself, baby.
All right, so the train has stationed, and I think I'll start us off with the jack wagons. And everybody's heard about this. It's been in every gun post since it happened. And, of course, I'm talking about the ATF's ruling on the honey badger, Q's honey badger. I think it's their Weasel and their Mini also, so 3 of their guns. But definitely the honey badger, where the ATF ordered a cease and desist to Q, stating that their pistol, honey badger pistol, is an SBR. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on that. And I'll start with Jay.
Yeah, so braces, right? All gun laws are infringements. How about that?
Repeal the NFA.
All gun laws are infringements.
Yeah, I agree.
And then you won't have to have workarounds. So, yeah, that's basically all I have to say about that. It's literally the letter of the founding documents that we're supposed to be supported by. And I don't know, man. I think that without really jumping on the ATF's ass about it, because I don't think that this was actually them in particular. I think that this is rogue leadership.
Mm-hmm.
So I doubt that the regular people that sign and approve our tax stamps really give a shit about any of this stuff. And I think that this is a portion of the October surprise, all things considering. They singled out one manufacturer that like literally only spits out to a very, very Gucci community. If they were making big moves, they would have gone after somebody huge. Do you know what one of the largest segments of firearms manufacturing is?
Braces?
No, man, it's pistols. Every manufacturer sells a pistol. Every manufacturer sells a pistol of one variety or another. Mm-hmm. ARs, AKs, FALs, and everything else in between.
Right.
You can get a Ruger 1022 with a brace.
That's true. Get a Glock with a brace.
And you get a Glock with a brace.
What's that?
You get pretty much
what's that
you can
device?
Pretty much get anything. You can pretty much get everything that you want.
Yeah. What's that device that they make? You can throw your Glock in.
The Flux is real good.
The Flux. I'm thinking of the Roni, the micro Roni or whatever it's called.
Oh yeah, the CAA thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very popular, man. It's very, very popular.
Very popular. But I have no problem with
it. Works great on Glock 18s.
Yeah, but when the braces first came out, it was one of those things that I could see that. One, I was surprised that it even got approved in the very beginning, which I was all for. I was hoping it would, but I was like, this is never going to get approved. It's never going to last. And they've been wishy-washy through the whole, this whole process through the pistol braces. They've gone back and forth on them, saying what you can, what you can't do, that it changes the design of the gun if you put it to your shoulder, which is horseshit. It doesn't change anything.
But does it though? You know what I mean? But does it? Right? It's hocus pocus. It's total bullshit. It's made up.
And in this letter that they sent to Q, it didn't even give a reason, an explanation as to why. It just said that this is intended to be shouldered, and you're an SBR.
Right, but they don't have to. It's not their responsibility to inform. Right? They make decisions by unelected bureaucrats that don't have any accountability to a constituency. So they can pretty much do as they please, and there really isn't a form of checks and balances on that. In the long story short, basically what Q's looking at, this would bankrupt them. They're looking at millions of dollars in penalties and fines and taxes and shit like that. So Maybe.
Obviously they're going to fight this, I guess, as best they can, as much as they can. But
right. Or they can just be or they can be a component company, and if you want to buy a whole from them, you've got to Form 3 it. So if they want to stay in business, they're going to have to adapt while they arbitrate.
Well, and that's something I want to get more detailed on. And just so you guys know, I'm looking at trying to get Alex Bosco with SB Tactical on the show. And
he'd know the things.
Right. So we're working on that, lead heads. If we can make that happen, we'll definitely do a show with Alex. We'll have him come on, and as much as he's able to talk about what's going on, hopefully he'll be able to join us. But I want to know more about this. I want to know more of the inside of what's going on. So hopefully we can make that happen. But dick move by the ATF, without a doubt. And we're going to see how this plays out in the months to come. I don't think this is going to be resolved anytime soon, especially with the election.
Sure about that. I'm not so sure about that. I think that this is honestly, I I think that this is actually just something to piss off people. And I think that they targeted one small little company.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that this is going to blow away like a fart in the wind for the rest of us. And it'll continue to be a, two-fisted colonic for Q. No, regardless of which direction this transfer of power goes, this may be the smallest bump in the road that we're going to experience.
Well, let's hope so. And it's my understanding that this is the only company that this is affected. So any of these other AR pistols, AK pistols, whatever, Galil pistols, whatever you're doing, are fine. And they're still selling those if you can find them, if they're available, and you can still buy them and own them with no problem. It's just the Honey Badger. It's my understanding that brace that they made is I'm going to say proprietary, but it's just for the Honey Badger. They don't have it available like by itself for sale, or I don't know, but that's my understanding. So I guess that's why it doesn't affect any other manufacturers, is that brace itself
Maybe
is specific to the Honey Badger. I don't know. I don't either. But, hopefully that's something Alex can clear up for us.
Oh, I'm sure that he's going to be a depth of knowledge that would make us both look like a bunch of dolts.
Right. That's why I get the experts on, so I don't have to show my ignorance. But I do sometimes.
Yeah, because quite honestly, I don't really give a shit about braces. I don't really pay any attention to it.
Yeah.
I'm functionally aware of what happened, and I began to do what I normally do and say, oh, well, who are the people in my neighborhood? And, I started looking at where the things come from. And then after I started reading for like 6 minutes, I'm like, oh, this is the reason why. Okay, that's cool. And then I got, I got distracted by more relevant things.
Yeah. Well, speaking of theft and repealing the NFA, I got my suppressor out of jail the other day.
Oh, congratulations!
Thanks, man. Atlas Defense Atlas. It's a 30 caliber. Excuse me. 30 caliber rated suppressor, and it's a multi-caliber, so it'll shoot all the way down to a 5.56.
Those very good cans by very good dudes.
Took it out. I put just a few rounds through it the other day with a 300 blackout, but I want to take the 308 out with it and see how well that does. But I need to get me some.
You should talk to our friend and go get you some of them super sweet subsonics.
You talking about Defiant?
What else would I be talking about?
I mean,
not only is that a sexy man, his shit's fucking fire.
I was talking with Pete actually today, and he was talking about the worldwide primer shortage that's on. And
that's a fact. That's an absolute fact.
And his production issues are almost exactly the same as my production issues. He can get like 9mm casings, but is missing the primers that go in those casings or whatever. And then he's got 5.56 stuff with primers, but he's got most of the parts for a bunch of rounds and not the parts that he needs to get product out the door, for one complete thing. And
there's a very, very real thing that almost no one is talking about right now, is that the second and third order effects of this global COVID pandemic bullshit are starting to manifest themselves.
Yep.
And one of those, and one of the things is that the entire world either has Kool-Aid or it has motherfucking sugar. But very few fucking industries have Kool-Aid and sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we've been seeing it for months now, and I do not understand why it's not appearing in the news. And
because they do not want you to know that the veil is potentially going to get lifted, and you are going to go to the store and not be able to get the shit that you need. Because we are still living out of fucking warehouses right now.
Totally.
The entire country is living out of a warehouse. And when that warehouse starts to run a little dry.
Well, it is deer season, and you can fill your freezers full of some deer meat.
Yeah, that's great for this season.
For this season, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's like all these fucking people. Oh, if fucking bad shit happens, I'm gonna go to the woods. Yeah, how are you gonna do that? You and how many people? You're gonna be competing? You're gonna compete for that meat?
Only during season. Only during season.
Only, maybe. Hope you don't get shot. Hope you don't get shot by some city slicker who's never actually been out in the woods.
Think people are gonna abide by the conservation of the deer seasons and the limits and all that if shit hits the fan like that? No, they're not.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that there's going to be observers by the Sierra Club International, and they're going to be like, right, and they're going to be like, no, I'm sorry, y'all are hungry and shit, but we got to let that one rut.
So we're going to talk more about that. That's coming up in our main topic of getting prepared, being prepared.
The Fiocchi family has been producing high-quality ammunition since 1876. In 2020, Fiocchi's launching a full line of premium products, everything from self and home defense to the long-range categories. The Fiocchi Blue Guardian line will feature specially tuned products specifically for home and self-defense, featuring lead-free technology and the only NATO-certified zero-pollution primer in the world. Fiocchi's a proud sponsor of the Talking Lead podcast and the Leadhead Brigade. Fiocchi trains, Fiocchi protects.
So our jack wagons, I got off subject talking about my suppressor. I was excited that it came in and going to be shooting. I'm going to throw it on the ODS 1775 too.
Shit, yeah.
Going to run that bitch on there too.
I've talked. The Atlas guys are my friends as well, and really good dudes. And they've got a 1/3 by 24 rear thread on most of their cans, and the dead air Kymo or chemo, however you want to say it, KYMO adapter will slide right in the back there. And so,
really?
Yeah. So running you don't even need to change out your muzzle device. You just swap out the rear thread adapter in the can, and it'll drop right onto the 1775. That's a big
The one
reason.
I got?
Yeah, the one you got.
Well, I want to try that out right now.
Well, that's why. Well, you're probably missing a part, but I'll show you what's up.
Okay.
Don't get too excited. Get pretty excited, because this is the genius of Mike Pappas's system over at Dead Air, is having this, and there's others that have done this. So he's not the first, but I really like his adapter. And so before I ever owned a Dead Air can, I was running a Silencer Co. Omega 300 with the Dead Air adapter onto a Dead Air muzzle device. And our muzzle devices that we're now shipping, our Vortex flash hiders, are also Dead Air key mount compatible. So it's as close to like USB, or a lightning cable's a really bad example. The Apple Lightning adapter just works for.
Yeah. So it doesn't fit.
No, and nor would I expect it to. But in the back of your can, you'll see that QD adapter there. That thing it's a direct thread, so that thing unscrews.
Okay.
And then Dead Air makes a thing that screws in that turns it into a.
I got you.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I've got another brake that I can put on here, so I'll just take this one off and put it on.
Super.
So they sent me an extra.
I'm gonna have to call them tomorrow.
Atlas or Dead Air?
No, I just talked to Atlas. Atlas is my can company.
Okay, cool. Joe Mo. Hey, Joe. All right. Let's move on.
Dennis, who gets no public props, and Zach, who gets no public props.
Zach gets public props on our show. He's been on our show. He's done. He did the AK corner with us a few episodes back. Yeah. Yeah,
I like
Zach.
him. He's good people.
Zach's a good dude.
Really like him. Both him and Joe. I haven't met Dennis, but
he's a good dude too. Yeah.
Your life is unfulfilled until you become bros with Dennis.
Yeah.
Well, he's certainly eccentric enough to be a friend of mine. So yeah, we'll have to make.
All right, so let's move on. Do you guys have any jack wagons? Anybody you want to throw on the jack wagon train? Under it, over it, in front of it?
Yeah, I've got somebody for jack wagons.
Okay, who you got?
All right, I've got whoever the fuck invented loitering fucking drones, because I've been watching footage for the last 2 weeks from fucking like Azerbaijan, and I'm like, fuck loitering drones right now.
What's a loitering drone?
All right, so like, you know those drones that like you see everybody flying all the time?
Sure.
All right, well, imagine just one that's like slightly bigger, except it's carrying a munition. And you can just like, I don't know, you can launch it from anything and go fly it around. And when you find something you want to blow up, yeah, just do that.
And who has these?
Actually, everybody has them. It's actually like, you know, like not amazing technology,
Yeah.
right? But whatever generation of those drones are operational right now are being tested like a motherfucker in Azerbaijan.
Ah, okay. So just basically their own hillbilly drone, super drone.
No, actually, no. That would be, you know, that would be something that, you know, we do here. But no, actually, what's happening over there is you have various other nations that are using this conflict as a proxy opportunity for real world testing. So what's happening is that, you know, there's some Turkish stuff flying around, there's some Israeli stuff flying around, there's some Saudi stuff flying around. Basically, everybody who has a competing product is basically sending it there and giving it to one proxy militia or another to say, hey, why don't you send this thing out for a spin, and make sure you give us the video though. And then give us an after action and let us know how that worked out for you.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And are these loitering drones, are they dropping a munition or are they the munition?
No, man, they are the munition.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
they're not trying to recover them.
No, man, they are the munition, and like, you know, they've got a couple kilogram care package with a really excellent 8K camera, because some of this footage is just awesome. And dude, like, really, you know what I mean?
Yeah, this is one of those things that I've been watching for a while. I was working in, you know, countermeasures for a while to defeat these things, and it's really friggin' bleak and scary. And it's very hard to defeat drones, especially if there's a swarm of them. And you can put together one of these with a pretty short trip to one of the many. I don't want to make it sound like I'm giving instructions. Let's put it this way, that making this shit isn't hard. And
yeah, it's a couple clicks. Couple clicks.
And just all the other, there's a whole bunch of weapons where people are not personally put in danger by deploying them. You know, like S-vests on special needs children that they send into markets, or, you know, drones here, you know, you're not physically in danger. You know, there'll be a dude in Vegas, you know, at Nellis, flying a drone in Afghanistan who's not personally at risk. And the ethics of that get really tricky. And I'm not saying one way or the other on American forces what's up. I'm just saying that when you can project violence from a very long distance away, in relative terms, really bad shit can happen really quickly. And so, yeah, it's something to be watched. And the democratization of this kind of violence has certainly been on the rise for quite a few years. ISIS was doing this, several years ago with just DJI drones and grenades, just basically duct taped to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
if you've read the Jack Carr books, he lays out an instance where this happens in True Believer.
Mm-hmm.
Taking out a top U.S. official or something. It was a few chapters back, so.
No, the wife is waving the general off to his day or whatever, and the drone fly onto the top of his vehicle. Yep, that's a Jack I think I would point people towards Jack for real world applications of all this stuff. And he goes into some, do it yourself explosives manufacture, and
he gets
leaves
really
out,
detailed on some stuff.
Clear. So I feel very safe pointing people that way without getting anybody frowny at me.
Yeah. I mean, his books have been meticulously gone over by government officials. So, anything in there that it's not supposed to be, they've redacted it. Put a big black line. I mean, they didn't even just take it out. They just put a big black line over it, which I think is funny. But he's got 2 more books out, too. I'm just on True Believer. He's got Savage Son and The Devil's Hand. Have you read both those?
I didn't realize that Devil's Hand was actually released yet. I got to get after that. But he's a favorite of mine and a really nice guy. I've talked with him a few times in person. And
yeah, he's been on the show.
Oh, I wish I could have been around for that.
Yeah, it was a good show. Trying to get him back. I was talking to his publisher the other day, so that might happen. But
nice.
with the Netflix thing that he's working on, I doubt it.
Oh, yeah, I think he's rightfully so, deservedly so, starting to really skyrocket there.
Oh, yeah. So probably next time you want to hear Jack, go to Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
He'll be on Joe Rogan. But no, okay, so that's a good jackwagon there, Jay. Yep. I like that. What about you, Brian? You got a jackwagon?
I'm going to put this very generally. Dudes with guns on their hips getting into fist fights. I do feel safe to say that those of us that have a martial lifestyle, let's all really do our best to comport ourselves in a way where we're utterly decent and unassailable in our morals. And there are numerous examples that I don't really want to touch on specifically of people in our community that are acting in ways that I find really embarrassing. And so let's just say everybody who's wearing a gun outside their belt that's going and getting into physical altercations with people. That's not a good look for our movement. And so those guys are not high on my list of acting well.
I'll agree with that, definitely. So what about heroes? We got anybody that deserves some special recognition for doing something outstanding in our community, in our world, that you've heard, maybe a product, maybe a person?
I got a good one, I think. The glorious ACB, Amy Coney Barrett. She talk about a true, in the best sense of the word, feminist icon. You've got a mother of 9, special needs kid, 2 adopted kids, law professor, and she's been handling these hearings with real class and is bringing a lot of dignity back to an area that doesn't have much right now. And the way she comports herself is wonderful to me. And I'm a big fan of women in general, but my wife and girls are women, and I'm big fans of them. And anytime that somebody succeeds, regardless of their sex, but
I just think as a person, she's doing an excellent job handling the questions that they're dealing out to her during this hearing. I think she's doing a really good job.
She's absolutely responding with grace and dignity.
Yeah.
When these pieces of shit are literally doing everything that they can to either get a rise out of her, provoke, or intimidate her.
Yeah.
But these festering fucking buffoons are really going out of their way to try to destroy an institution that is really one of the last footholds of checks and balance in this supposed
tricameral system, maybe.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Well, definitely.
Did you hear today when they asked her? I don't remember which shitbags mentioned it, but they asked her if she has ever sexually abused anyone.
What?
Like, what in the actual fuck kind of question is that?
Did a guy ask her that or a girl? And I mean, it
I
doesn't
was
matter,
so
but still.
I was so livid. I was just like, I don't know. And with all their fucking fake binary fucking voices and shit like that, I couldn't fucking tell anyways.
Oh my gosh! And how did she? Do you remember how she addressed that?
No, I kind of flew off the handle and just muted it and put on.
My gosh, that is completely uncalled for.
Put on some Slayer and went to my fucking happy space.
People who ask questions like that have no basis to be asked, they should be removed immediately from their post.
There is no dignity in that question.
No, none whatsoever. Well, they have no dignity. None of these.
Well, no, but you know, you're negotiating from a position of weakness if you have to stoop that low. That's how desperate they are.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think she realizes that.
I got the complimentary jackwagon as well. This piece of debris, or maybe he's just insane and we should feel bad for him and try and get him the help he needs.
Uh-huh.
But Keith Olbermann had a monologue this week on his new.
Oh, holy Christ. Jesus.
He's been senile for years. What has he done now?
No, he's not senile. He is astutely aware of what he is saying. He just doesn't give a shit. They released him early from his ESPN contract and said, "You're a fucking mess. Yeah. Go do you." Right? The one network, right, that is like entirely focused on like a dying marketing plan, right? Because no one's watching any sports at all, is releasing talent because he's such a hot mess, and his tirades.
They got rid of him years ago, decades ago, right? And it's been a long time.
He got blown off of MSNBC or NBC, whatever the fuck they're called, right? And then he went on to ESPN. And ESPN said, "Hey, it's okay if we have sports announcers walk off during a show. We're cool with that. But you're so crazy that we're going to release you from your contract."
So
what do you do? What do you do, Brian?
I've got the quote up here. He's speaking of Trump here. He and his enablers and his supporters, that would include, like we the people, half of the country.
Yeah, more than half. Yeah.
He and his enablers and his supporters and his collaborators and the Mike Lees and the William Barrs and the Mike Pences and the Rudy Giuliani's and the Kyle Rittenhouses and the Amy Coney Barretts must be prosecuted and convicted and removed from our society while we try to rebuild it and rebuild the world Trump has destroyed by turning it over to a virus. That to me sounds like re-education camps for half the country.
Sounds like concentration camps to me. Sounds like what the Nazis did.
That sounds like challenge accepted to me.
Yeah. Bring it on, you crazy bastard.
I said, I'll pray for them because reasons.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because reasons.
It's pretty staggering. So I think he counts as a jackwagon, if for no other reason than trying to inflame a situation which is extremely perilous right now.
Yeah.
And the people that are adding fuel to this fire.
So you know how I visualize these people in my head? I visualize these people like orcs.
Orcs?
Right? Orcs.
Okay.
From the fucking Ring, man.
Yeah.
You don't
I know exactly what you're talking about. I want to hear this. I'm intrigued now. You see them as orcs.
So they have these monolithic figures that they refuse to call a god because they don't accept God in their life. That's why they're pieces of shit, right? And they basically just go wherever the mystical eye points them to go, and they cause destruction and fucking mayhem wherever it is. And if they get into fights with each other, it's all good, right? Just like orcs.
Okay.
I dig. Yeah.
I buy that.
Right? They're just nihilistic, destructive shits, and they serve no benefit other than fertilizer.
Okay. That's a good analogy. That's a unique analogy. I've not heard that one before.
I'm a thinker.
You are, and I'm gonna rewind a little bit because you mentioned Kyle Rittenhouse, and there's some news about Kyle Rittenhouse. He says he will not face gun charges in Lake County related to the AR-15 style weapon he is charged with using to kill 2 men and wound a third during violent protest in Kenosha in August. Prosecutors announced today.
Yeah, shocker, because that's not a crime. You know what I mean? Hate to be all logical and shit, but it wasn't a crime. So there's no charge. Fucking shock.
Yeah, so it says an Antioch police investigation found that the Smith & Wesson .223 rifle was purchased, stored, and used in Wisconsin, and turned up no evidence the 17-year-old physically possessed the weapon in Illinois, according to a news release from the Office of Lake County Attorney Mike Nerham.
Yeah, something German.
Yeah, but I guess he's still going to be going to trial for the murders.
Yeah, I know. He's going to walk, though.
So we'll keep an eye on that. So there you go. All right, so that's a good planes and trains segment. Do you have anything else?
No, but everybody who's keeping their shit together and keeping their head up right now, they deserve a round of applause, because right now is just straight fucked up, and this is a very challenging time to be a good American.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Yeah.
Just a good person in general. It's tough to be.
How about if you're just going to work and taking care of your family and you're not shitting on anybody right now?
You're a hero. You get a ride on Lead Force One.
I'll buy you a Guinness and a Blanton's. I mean, not really, because I'm poor, but the thought's there.
That's what I was drinking out of the AK Corner Letty. Nice.
What, Blanton's?
Guinness. I was drinking Guinness.
Oh, man. Get that Blanton's. Get that horse, boy.
I haven't had Blanton's. What's Blanton's?
Really?
I'm asking.
It's really good. It's really good bourbon.
Oh, it's bourbon.
Okay. It's expensive, but it's not like that kind of expensive. You know what I mean? It's not the kind of shit that you'll swill and do that sort of thing, but it's a good gentlemanly beverage.
Okay. Well, that's probably why I haven't had it then. I'm not a gentleman.
If we go to SHOT Show, I'll buy. We'll have one.
Okay. So the odds what are the odds of SHOT Show happening? 10 to 1? 10 to 1?
10 no's to 1 yes.
10 no's it ain't gonna happen. Yes, 1 yes it is gonna happen.
I would say that there's 75 no's.
Odds are against it, right?
Odds are against it.
So that means they're going to have to shut down the concrete one, the porn one. What else goes on during that week?
I don't know. You've already had the Consumer Electronics Show canceled. That's the largest one in Las Vegas. That was canceled quite a while ago. And then, another little show, SEMA. SEMA was canceled. It's an electronics show only.
Yeah, but isn't Vegas open? Aren't the casinos open and shit?
Yeah, it's kind of open, but hotels cannot run under full occupancy.
Yeah.
There's an informative stat that doesn't necessarily say much about SHOT Show, but for the rest of them, I think it was Gallup did a nationwide poll, and I know polls are ridiculous right now, but I think this one's pretty accurate, or it makes sense to me. 3% of Democrat women are ready to return to normal life, and only 5% of Democrat men. And, we might want to, at the risk of being callous, I think there's a real testosterone shortage in the Democrat Party, and if we can figure out a way to put that in the water, might do a whole lot of good.
So they have no will to survive. Huh?
I hear that you can raise concentration by reducing quantity.
I'm not sure it works exactly that way, but I like where your head's at. Yeah.
I'm not a chemist.
That's an awful low. I mean, if you flip it the other side, that's an awful high amount of people who don't want to return to their normal everyday way of life.
Well, that's because their normal everyday lives suck, and they're happier getting a fucking check and sucking off the daddy government's tit.
But are they getting a check? Are the check? I thought the check stopped.
Well,
The checks kind of have stopped, but getting a check is better. Getting a lesser check is still better than getting, having to work your fucking job and get almost the same amount. I mean, state to state unemployment is, greatly varies.
Yeah.
But even though you are not getting the stimulus money that was being tacked on and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Dude, what the fuck? Like, seriously, you have no pride in working and making your own money, right? That's a personality thing. That's a value issue,
Yeah.
right? And ultimately, the government ownership of the means of production, right? And we can not work and still live basically the same lifestyle, or we can grind our asses and earn the most that we are capable of based upon what we're able to provide. So the hard, rewarding way, or the easy, I'll just take what I can get and live off that way and do a side hustle like drive fucking Uber or something.
Yeah.
Right?
Brian, read those stats again one more time.
yeah, it was 3% of American female Democrats, 5% of male Democrats were ready to resume normal life. And let me pair that with another. This is a really good segue into today's topic in terms of setting the stage for the risk that currently exists. This is not a survey, but I saw a man on the street last week, I think, of a dude walking up to various people on the street and asking them what percentage of the population they thought had died under COVID.
Yeah.
And the answers ranged between 20 and 30%. And that would be 100 million people as opposed to 200,000. So for an error of about a factor of 500, if I've got my math right there. So, so I was puzzling over why this is, and I think I understand why. If you do you guys remember Brick from Anchorman, the loud noises weatherman dude?
Yeah.
Was that Steve Carell?
Yeah, Steve Carell's character in the Anchorman.
Okay.
You know when they're having a heated debate, he just starts saying loud noises, and then he says, "I don't understand what's going on here."
Right.
So imagine that news anchors were speaking Russian or some other language you didn't understand, but you just read their body language and the intonation of what they were saying. If you were doing that, 20 to 30% of the country dead would be a pretty good correlation to the level of hysteria that media personalities are projecting. And so if you're thinking that COVID is killing 20 to 30% of the population, no, you wouldn't, want to go outside or resume normal life. And so there's a fundamental problem of how information is being received and transmitted. I think it's obviously dishonest and irresponsible of the media to be doing what they're doing. But the fact remains that they are, and that a lot of people are listening to the loud noises, and they're very, very scared. And so, yeah, there's I forget what movie it's from, but it's something like individuals can be cool. People in groups, when they're scared, are extremely dangerous animals. And good.
No, so what you're saying is that people are making ignorant decisions based upon poor manipulated information?
Yeah, that is it. And if I don't even know that they're making a decision. This is such a state of reaction.
I know, but decisions are hard.
Decisions are hard.
Well, and not making a decision is also a decision.
Fucking A right it is.
Yeah.
You don't get to be passive both ways.
Yeah.
Yep.
This episode of Talking Lead is brought to you in part by Occam Defense. The guys at Occam love the AK, but didn't love burning their hands, getting cut by their pre-sharpened gun, or the lack of options for accessories. After spending a few years in the lab, they've recently released the ODS 1775, which brings the best of the AR family to the Kalashnikov's reliability. It's still an AK under the hood, AK mags, forged Polish AK parts, but with American aerospace manufacturing practices and ingenuity. Check them out at occamdefense.com or on Instagram at Occam Defense Solutions.
So that, I think, sets the stage pretty well, Lefty, if you want to transition into what we wanted to talk about today.
Yeah, so we want to talk about self-ownership, self-responsibility, being responsible. And, you're not born with responsibility. Responsibility
aren't you? Aren't you?
You aren't. You're born helpless, not knowing anything.
I don't know. I'm just stirring shit. That's what I do.
you know? So, you have to learn responsibility. It's a learned trait. So,
yeah.
Being prepared is a responsibility. And with the election and everything that's going on, you guys were calling it the hurricane that's coming, the next hurricane, in which is going to be the election. It's coming up just in a few weeks. How can a responsible individual take self-ownership and get prepared for what's coming? What do they need to be thinking about?
Yeah, so that occurs to me to be the best way that I can think of for what's going to happen is that, and for you guys that live in Indiana or Idaho or Minnesota who haven't dealt with a hurricane before, that you didn't used to know they were coming. Like in the 20s and 30s, the Eastern Seaboard got really whacked. I think the teens as well. Hemingway went and cleaned up a hurricane that destroyed South Florida pretty thoroughly. And the Hurricane of 38 up in Rhode Island killed a whole bunch of people out of nowhere. Like people were on the beach and the hurricane rolled in, that kind of thing. And now we've got this super cool luxury of modern meteorology, which mostly works. It's a miracle that it works as well as it does. And so we know that in 2 weeks, a hurricane is going to come by, but it might, it might go out to sea. It might be a big nothing, or it could be a really big deal. And so Jack Spirko, who I often quote on here, has a great way of talking about, that think about 2 weeks to start. And are you really good to go for the next 2 weeks if something bad happens? And so that's what we were thinking about framing today's conversation in is, hopefully a fairly minor natural disaster, but, there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong. And so should we talk about risks next for what could happen?
Yeah, we could do that.
In some places in the country, this has already happened, right? The stoppage of regular services like police and fire. And so those are obvious ones. What else, Jay, do you think might happen in this climate or this event?
Well, we've already been hearing, and in some regards, we've already seen examples of this thing occurring where truckers have made decisions, and in some cases, the management of the trucking companies, for the guys who aren't independent, have decided that any place that is going to be a risk to the cargo or to the driver, they're not delivering whatever it is that they've got that's moving around in their 18-wheelers. And we can all look at a map of the continental United States and reflect back on very recent history, like the last couple of weeks, the last couple of months, maybe even the last couple of years, and in certain terms. And what we can do is we can already do a intellectual overlay of the cities within the country that are prone to freakouts and poor social behavior. And some of those cities happen to be major hubs. So where we had the outbreak of random violence after, I don't know, dude number 6, whatever, whoever it was that was shot by the cops at the Wendy's, that was in Atlanta. So if you have a situation that massively deteriorates in a place like Atlanta, you're going to have lots of problems, because Atlanta is a gigantic hub city not only for air transportation, but it's also your FedEx hub. And you would be amazed at what you will not find at your store if Atlanta is under siege.
Yeah, and on the western seaboard there, you've got Los Angeles.
Port of Los Angeles, like, wow, right?
Yeah, and then
wow.
And Oakland for NorCal is, well, and everything coming, boats coming in from China come into LA, Oakland, I believe Seattle as well. And
correct.
And those three cities have a lot in common, and none of those are good.
No, none of those are good. And, maybe it's, because logistics is, my primary responsibility at my employer. I'm really sensitive to how logistics works and, how planes, trains, automobiles, 18-wheelers, and freight trains move through this country delivering goods and goods, right? They don't really, services, not really, unless there's like hookers on board, boobies. But the trains and 18-wheelers are responsible for transporting almost every single thing that we consume. And when you have any variety of stoppage of those things, you've got like Night of the Comet shit waiting to happen in like 20 minutes. Because people don't freak out until their comfort gets fucked up or they're hungry.
Yep, and again, I want to back up to reiterating that this would be the same thing as if a hurricane struck, right? I'd like to treat this something as if it's all right with you guys, as a natural phenomenon. So we're not talking about what should happen. This is just, it is a natural. You're totally right.
This is a natural phenomenon.
Yep.
And certainty of a hurricane that the forecast cone says, oh, okay, well, it's gonna land on grid so and so, and then butterfly effect happens, and it makes a sharp turn when it wasn't supposed to, and now it hits a different town or a different set of coasts that it wasn't intended to.
Yeah. Yep.
Or wasn't predicted to.
Yep.
I've seen that's happened at least two very, very dramatic times in my portion of Florida in the last couple of years, where I've literally been looking east and seen a Cat 4, Cat 5 storm, and I'm like, shit. And and then something happened, and it just turned hard right, like a 90-degree turn. It's like they said, it's like a little monkey was playing with the weather machine, and it turned instead. Not saying that the weather machine's a real thing or anything, directed energy weapons, lithium, excited particles. It could happen, but this thing turned, and we got crazy lucky. Actually, the entire eastern seaboard of Florida got very lucky, and it would have done billions of dollars worth of damage.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about this political hurricane. So we're assuming that, all right, it doesn't go the way that we want it, or no, it goes the way we want it to go, right?
Well, it doesn't matter.
So either way,
matter how it goes.
Okay, that's what I want to clarify.
Yeah, no,
it doesn't. It really doesn't matter which way it goes, because the parties that offer the most volatility are going to most likely throw a fit, regardless of outcome.
A good example would be Ted Wheeler trying he's Portland, right? Yeah. Trying to suck up to Antifa, going out and protesting with him. And what do? In thanks, they tell him to resign and then try to burn his apartment down.
Yeah.
So Antifa is not a fan of the left. They're using, and BLM. BLM is emerging as big a problem or bigger than Antifa. And they're not a fan of the Democrats. They're using them while it's useful. But the Democrats are trying to get in front of that bus and use it, but instead they're getting used. And like Wall Street Journal Washington Post did a wargaming exercise about the election, and and again, I state the source for a reason, and it'll be important in a second. And they considered 4 cases, a major win by either Biden or Trump, and then a narrow win by either Biden or Trump. And the only outcome of this wargaming exercise that ended peacefully was a massive win by Biden. And what that says about the left is it says everything good about the right, in that if there's an obvious win by Biden, the right will behave itself and accept the results of the election. Mm-hmm. And we will not be happy about it. But we will keep our powder dry, and we will keep showing up to work, and, just keep being conservatives. And any other situation, they predicted total violence. And so, and you've got Hillary Clinton saying that Biden shouldn't concede under any circumstances. The seeds have been planted for the idea of a revolt. Yeah. And so that's why.
It's like the philosophy that we threw out there a couple episodes ago is like, when they say this, they really mean this. So the Democrats and liberals have been hammering Trump on, will you do a peaceful transfer of power?
Right, exactly.
Because they plan on not doing a peaceful transfer of power.
Yep. And they're framing, all of those are linguistic and psychological seeds to be planted to normalize those ideas.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of that. There's been a lot of predictive programming over the last several weeks, arguably over the last several months, actually, that there's different agencies, news positions, people who just writing essays, bloggers, all on Twitter, all this random ass manufactured bullshit has been laying the groundwork for a narrative that hopefully, like, sweet baby Jesus, does not become a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? But they're tapping in to an already diminished intellectual capability with people's stress levels, and the fear inoculation has not taken hold yet. Like, people are just like a raw nerve. People aren't getting callous. They're like, walking around vibrating, freaking out. And, dude, you can manipulate people with fear.
They do it every day. That's been their both sides' agenda from day one is, fear this, fear that.
Oh, it's working it's working pretty damn good.
No, it's working really good. But let's get back to the hurricane. So the political hurricane that we're talking about, either side wins, then for our self, what are we calling it? Self-ownership. Being responsible, taking self-ownership through these times. What are we doing to get prepared for whichever way the wind's going to blow?
Yeah. So we're not going to talk anymore about, or we're not going to concern ourselves with what should be.
Yeah.
We're just going to concern ourselves with
what if,
the statistical possibility of something bad happening.
Yeah.
And the preps that we would do for this are pretty much the same for any other natural disaster where civil breakdown could happen. So like in South Florida, people start looting at the drop of a hat when a hurricane rolls in. That's just, that's just the way that culture rolls sometimes. So what are the problems that come with those risks, right? That we need to solve. And so one of them is that it's pretty hard to fight a mob and pretty hard to stay up all night guarding your house and doing a little bit of Overwatch all on your own. You're gonna go into sleep debt really fast. And even if you've got a four-person family, if you're on and your wife's on for 12 each, that's going to get old really fast. You can't enforce multiple roadblocks around your community if people are behaving badly. if somebody gets hurt, you're likely not a doctor. And if you can't get to medical facilities, you're going to have to make do.
Yeah, I think we were talking about what's at risk of when a hurricane comes in, what we're at risk of losing. Did we go over all those?
We went over some of them. I can loop back around because we missed one.
Yeah.
So water quality down in Florida, if sewage and water drop out anywhere tropical, cholera is an extreme risk.
And like a hot.
Really fast, and it kills people with a quickness. And so water security, meaning, not having somebody bust in your door and take your stuff, or medical, if somebody gets hurt, figuring out how to make do, or figure out.
And that's not just trauma. That in most practical situations, that's like your boo-boo kits and taking care of your small infection risks.
Yep.
Eye injuries due to debris, burns are a big deal. Just put in a huge order for some more burn stuff around the house, because there's more than myself here, so I need plenty.
Yeah. And the lack of civil services like fire department, police department, which we're already seeing right now. So keep extra fire extinguishers on hand.
Of them. And also know where there's public fire extinguishers so that you can refill your shit.
Exactly.
And there's also just everybody loves them some candles, but if you're in a really stressed out situation, let's say that you're, for us, like if our natural gas goes out in our house, what do we do? And so we have propane, and I don't want to jump too far into solutions here, but if you're having to build a fire in your backyard to boil water, and you're stressed out and sleep deprived, the chances of you or one of your kids getting burned go up astronomically. And so Jay's keying in on burns for a very real reason.
Yeah.
When things are not, if you don't have a really clean way to heat food and water, and you have to pour boy something, that becomes a pretty major risk.
Yeah, a good example of that, Brian, is that show I was talking about, Alone. I don't know if I talked about you guys with that or not, but these people are out in the wilderness and they're tired, they're hungry, they're malnutritioned, and this one guy, he was like the last 2 or 3, and he was like set to win the whole thing, and he just had a brain fart, and he burned his whole tent and kit and everything down, just just because of the, like you said, tired, not paying attention, and but yeah, that shit could happen. So
that happened in one of the Survivor episodes too, if I remember right, from a fairly skilled guy. He inhaled some smoke and blacked out and fell into the fire.
Oh damn.
So and got pretty well burned up. He survived it just fine, I think, but this is a real thing. The other one that we haven't touched on yet, and I'll give a quick story on, and it was one of the real introductions that I had to prepping, was that when I was living in the Bay Area in California, I was in Santa Cruz County, which is on the water, and just over the mountains from there is Silicon Valley. And there were a couple, Comcast, service providers, and they had a big ass fiber optic cable that linked up all these cell grids and cable modems and DSL lines and cell tower, cell phone, everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of these union guys were pissed that they didn't get the contract they wanted, and so they took a pair of bolt cutters down a manhole and they cut like a 2-inch fiber optic cable, and they shut down communications in every way for like several million people for a few days. And I lived up in the mountains, and I was going down to town, and my buddy, I ran into him, our cell phones weren't working, and he's like, yeah, it's the weirdest thing. I tried to buy gold today and I couldn't buy it. The store was open, but they couldn't find out the spot price for gold, and so they wouldn't sell any. So gold broke. Not that you couldn't have actually used gold coin then. I'm just saying, like, you couldn't change money into gold. I went to the bank. I had to make a deposit, and they were only allowing one person in the bank at a time because all of the security cameras were down. Everything was down. They were doing like manual handwritten deposit slips
Yeah.
and no withdrawals.
I mean, this is very similar with the COVID shit, that businesses are doing, with limiting people and limiting their services. And so.
But what I wish to emphasize is the level of bad intent that these two guys had was pretty small. They were just pissed over a contract. And if you've got somebody dedicated to a cause like Antifa, and they want to do something coordinated and harder to repair, like that was basically just civil disobedience. And these guys cut, you know what I mean? These are two jackoffs who managed to take comms from 6 million, 10 million people. Yeah. And it was a pair of bolt cutters. That's all they needed. And so comms.
What's that group? Anon? Is it Anon? Is that the name of that group?
Anonymous is the one you mean, the Hacker Collective? Yeah.
So, I mean, they're an organized group, and if they wanted to do something, they probably could do something. These, like you said, to your point, these were just two jacklegs that spur of the moment decided to, their butt hurt, they're going to cause some harm to people.
Yep, and so just what I would say is do not take any of your comms for granted. And we had a cell tower go out here at the beginning of COVID, and I ended up, getting Baofeng UV 5Rs are kind of the prepper standard. And you guys who are big time hams, I know they're garbage, but they're also $30, and so I can buy 3 of them and give them to people, or if one of them goes bad, I got spares. So
what's the range on one of those?
Well, we've gotten 8+ miles out of them here in Idaho.
How far?
They're lining light. What's that?
Say again, how far?
8 miles.
8 miles, okay.
And it's not hard to rig them. Now the law would say you can't do any of this. And well, let's just say I had a friend who got 8 miles, because you need a ham license, or you're supposed to have a ham license. But if you hop on Amazon, they don't ask if you have a ham license, and there are frequencies that are, the law says you should be licensed to use them, and I have friends that
there's instructions on how you can get more mileage out of your more range out of your comms.
Yep, and so that's a real quick thing that, again, I don't want to get into solutions here too much. We'll loop around to comms. Jay, have we covered, and Marty, have we covered most of the big ones here for our 2-week, extended home camping experience?
I think fundamentally we have, there's going to be criteria that you're going to have to cater to yourself depending upon how you actually live, because, 40% of the American population lives along a coast, and for the 60% that live
inland,
in what the I was going to say in flyover country, your considerations are going to be similar anyways, but the point is, mostly is that if you live near a coast, then you have an opportunity with salt water, and with I live in Florida, so learning how to desalinize is kind of a big deal, and but then I have Everglades also with surface water, so it's prudent to have several methods to be able to supply myself with copious amounts of potable water. Mm-hmm. But if you live in an apartment in the middle of a city that's in the middle of the country, you might want to have some consideration for storing some of your own water, just for never mind consumption, but also for hygiene, because if you have poor hygiene, you're going to get sick, and if you get sick during an extended stay, you might die. It's weird, it's one of those things. But well,
let's do the math real quick here. Water's as good a place as any to start with our solutions here. Yeah, we need bare minimum a gallon a day, and that gets you the driest of sponge baths, right? So let's say 2 gallons, a gallon,
Easy.
And this is per person, right?
per person.
Per person.
Yep. So if we've got 2 gallons a day per person for everything, including, using half a cup to wash your hands with and brush your teeth with a couple mouthfuls, that kind of thing. And this is really bare. So 2 weeks, that's 28 gallons a person. So for a family of 4, the bare minimum that seems reasonable to have on hand, ready to go, would be 100 gallons ish, right?
That's about right.
But you know what we're not doing with that water is flushing it down the toilet, right?
No, you're not.
So getting sick from poop is about the number one way to go in the extended camping experience, right?
That's right. The only thing that I would really like to interject here, though, is that I'm not under the impression that even under the most extreme circumstances that we're going to be in any variety of grid down situation, and that whatever festivities,
plumbing's going to work.
No, I think that you're going to have some places that turn the clock back, quite a ways. But there are also going to be gigantic portions of the country that are going to be functionally unaffected, and you will have power, you will have running water. Your grocery store may not be as supplied as it normally is. Suspension of services, being what they are and whatnot. In terms of what we're postulating here, I would say that it would be ongoing and a great idea to have as much food and supplies as you can reasonably afford. But I wouldn't be freaking out thinking that what's coming in 3 weeks is the apocalypse.
No, definitely, and that's why I'm trying to keep. And I think it's good to keep that drum.
And I know we don't have a crystal ball, and we can't. We don't know exactly. But would you liken it to the COVID, crisis that we had with the shortages in the grocery stores and things like that, or do you think it's going to be worse than that?
No, my personal feeling is let's just prep for a hurricane, like we were prepping for a hurricane, and that's something that everybody can do and everybody should do.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to leave behind all discussion of the why behind that, because even FEMA says something pretty akin to this. Mm-hmm. That everybody should have all this shit on hand for I forget what they say, but
right. Again, being a self, taking self ownership, being a responsible citizen, individual, American, whatever you want to call it. These are living by these guidelines will get you through. Like we're calling the election a hurricane. Treat it like a hurricane, and also we've got hurricane. This is hurricane season 2. So you could have the election, you could have a hurricane on top of that, you could have a forest fire mixed in with that too. So you could get triple whammy.
These are functional,
and COVID.
These are functional principles that if you apply to your life at any given time, you are ahead of the power curve because you are not competing for resources with people who fucking panic.
Yep. And just to put a button in water here, there's an almost free way to do this. And the best case scenario in my mind would be to make friends with a baker, which I've done in the past. It's not hard to do at one of these Safeways or Albertsons or whatever, Publix or whatever, big chain supermarket you have in your area. Is just go up and make friends with one of them and ask if they would save the frosting buckets off of the slop that they make in the bakeries at these chain stores, that once you read the ingredients on the buckets, you will never want to buy the shit in the grocery store again because it's mostly artificial. But they have
gnarly.
Food grade 5-gallon buckets that they just throw out, and you can most of the time get these people to save those for you. And if you can say, go every few days to grab them, if you're short on Skrilla, and go and grab a bucket, and you'll have a nasty experience of wiping out the frosting because it's weird. It's not like real frosting. It's this gelatinized, hydrogenized oil goo. But just somehow, the upside is it smells good. And you can just rinse those out and put 5 gallons of water in each one of them. If it'll make you feel better to put, a cap full of bleach in each one just to keep them nice and fresh, go for it. There's 100, you get 20 buckets, there's 100 gallons of water. And even if you can only fit 5 in your apartment, that's 5 more than you had before. So there's no real dollar investment here. If you want to do it the super easy way and you get water developed or delivered, just order 20 extra water and keep cycling them through. That's what we were doing the last 6 months or so because we were renting and then bought a place. And so setting up a water tank wasn't a real thing. And so we just ordered 20 extra, 5-gallon water cooler jugs. And then we put the date on them, making sure that we were always pulling from the oldest and adding to the newest. And that's an easy way to solve water for a couple of weeks there.
For sure. I'm sure most people have heard this, that, you go to the grocery store to go grab something. If you buy doubles of some of the things, or you take advantage of BOGOs, right? You can fill an extra cabinet pretty easily without having to peel off extra scratch to be able to do it. So you're not having to allocate household funds to hobby collecting of food. And when you're cycling through your stuff, it's just really, it's just, it's just prudent to use your old stuff first. And so that you're, just like Brian mentioned, to be cycling your product. You want to be cycling your food products as well as cycling your water products.
Yep. Yeah. Spirco and others call that copy canning, what Jay just described. And it's a brilliant method because you're buying the stuff you actually eat. When people go to buy survival stuff, they get in this weird mode of getting shit that they don't eat. And the wonderful thing, Spirco likes to say that the most probable use of you using your stored up canned goods is because you lost your job.
Yep.
And so having that money stored in food that you actually eat is, just like Jay said, it's not costing you anything extra. So just, every time you're going to buy one, just buy 2 and stick it in that other pantry and then start rotating through it once you get that other area full. Because that's the other tragedy, is putting all this shit in a box, forgetting about it, and then having a bunch of food that's past its shelf date when you go to need it. And we don't want to waste money. This is just rotating through, use the old stuff and then old stuff first and put the new stuff, put the new stuff in the back and put the old stuff up front and just cycling forward. And if you've got one pantry, which most of us do if we're lucky, you could put the new can in the back, pull from the front and shift everything forward.
First in, first out. FIFO.
Yep, FIFO.
So we've kind of handled food and water there, right? Because 2 weeks of food, you can build that up pretty quick if you need to.
And you need the proper kind of foods too. You don't need to be storing up, chips and crackers and stuff like that. You need to get the protein, good amount of fat foods. I mean, you got to have fat to survive.
Need carbs, need fat, need protein. If you got kids, you need fun food. You're gonna need fun food. You got to have fun food if you got kids, because you got to keep their mental health, good. And this isn't that.
Let them eat cake.
Nah, well, if you bake cake, baking cake's pretty easy. You know what I mean? You can bake really bitchin' cakes with powdered egg product. So, there's that. But Man, as sideways as, some people, especially some of the more, popular prepper sites and, survival sites, want to make everybody all hysteric about how fucked up that, this could potentially be. You have to keep in mind that those magazines and websites and bloggers have to do that because it's their business. So it does good for their sponsors and for the products that they sell to get people wound up to buy shit that they don't need, or buy more than they actually do need. Because one of the things that's an actually interesting point that somebody mentioned to me is that there's portions of Syria that have been unaffected by the civil or war or conflict, random ass shit. But just like during our during our own civil war, there were portions of the country that they were mentally or intellectually aware that there was active combat happening. You had cities literally burning down. You also had large portions of the country that were totally unaffected by it. And people went to work, they got married, they had kids, took care of their farms, did business, and they were aware of it, but they were unaffected by it.
Yeah.
So that's why I was mentioning it, a little while ago.
But you don't know. You don't know if you're going to be affected by it or not.
No,
so you got to.
No, I don't buy that. No, I actually don't buy that, because you actually kind of do have an idea, right? If you look at the map of the country, and you look back as to what cities have been having ongoing problems, you can deduce that those cities are going to be the cities that are going to continue to have issues. And if
we're talking about interstate commerce being shut down, we're talking about air being shut down. That's going to affect everybody.
I don't think that you are going to see a nationwide shutdown of anything, because there are shareholders, right, and boards of directors, right, that want their money. And with this being the size economy that it is, right, you got to keep that ATM full, man. People want to make their money.
But do you want to risk that? It's like, well, I'm one of the lower risk areas for any of this shit to affect me. I'm not going to worry about having extra water, having extra food, having extra gas on hand, having extra medical supplies on hand.
No, not at all. Because
I've got a prescription I've got to get filled. Every.
That's absolutely right. Because if you're insulin dependent, you might want to fill that refrigerator.
Right. So
with the insulin as
so
you
that's
can
what
get.
I'm saying. However, there could be unforeseen things that maybe I'm good on my food, but I'm going to be fucked on my meds.
Well, no, that's a very real thing. However, if you have already been doing your area studies and been doing your risk assessment preparation.
So this is a good topic, because how do people do that? How do I do that, Jay? How do I do a risk assessment?
It's complicated.
Yeah, but that's something that we should talk about and let our listeners know. Is like, how do I do a risk assessment?
Well, I'm no expert in this. Okay, it's just something that I have learned how to do.
But that could be another topic for another show.
That could absolutely be another topic for another show, and I've got the perfect person to invite in on that.
There you go.
Who's an actual expert in that thing, that most of your listeners know who I'm talking about. So you should always have a ton of batteries. You should always have a ton of ammunition. You should always have a ton of medicine. You should always have trauma. You should always have fuel. You should always have water. You should always have all the shit that you fundamentally need, right? You should always have those things, whether it's this, whether it's a fucking alien invasion, it doesn't matter. You should always have basic shit in your house, right?
Yeah.
And we could spend a whole hour, right, talking about just-in-time delivery systems and how that's completely mangled people's lives.
Yeah.
Right?
Amazon.
Dude, like for real, right? Amazon has trained people to be like, oh man, Prime,
Dude,
whatever.
I just dropped an order right before we got online for some car parts. It was like, I know what I'm doing this weekend because I'll have this shit tomorrow. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's really excellent. Okay, but if you can if you can fundamentally break yourself of that habit for things that you fundamentally need all the time,
Sure,
like all this, like this ammunition shortage shit. Everybody that I know, my friends, are like, whatever.
Yeah,
because we've already got ammo.
Right.
Why? Well, we shoot all the time, and we know better. So, and we've been through this cycle. I don't know how many times, like 5 or 6 times in the last 20 years.
Yeah, more than that.
Right?
Well, if I may, let's pull this back.
Rein us in, Brian.
That was just a really good inclusive list of all the shoulds. And I'll give you guys a good example because I think it applies on a personal level. Back in January, I saw the election coming and was nervous about what the availability of parts would be because it's really dicey for the AK. So I went out to do a fundraising effort with investors, and part of that fundraising effort was to get in a year's worth of supply so that no matter what happened in 2020, I would be good to go and able to ship rifles out. Well, COVID rolled up right before we were about to close on that money, and I couldn't quite seal the deal and couldn't get out of the way of the train in time. And I bet, I've got a couple friends. One of them's who's a listener probably, is a QC guy at a cabinet shop. He has a special needs kid that pretty much takes up, who sounds wonderful, but takes up most of his after work hours of him needing to watch him. And the cabinet shop's been hit hard because they can't get, handles for the drawers, on the cabinets. And so his job isn't super secure. And when he's home, he's tied up watching his kid. He can't do a side hustle to get extra money to get all these supplies. So I bet we have a whole lot of folks out there who know about all the shoulds, but they don't have the cash or don't have the ability right now to do all the things. So maybe we could rein it all the way back into what they can get done in the next 2 weeks to prepare as best as they can. Yeah, so bang for the buck on being ready for a hurricane to hit in 2 weeks where they may lose power for a couple days, just some unexpected stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the only reason I don't want to focus too much on guns is that we're a bunch of gun nerds on this show and the listeners as well. And so everybody has known for a long time they need ammo. And so if they haven't done that, they have what they have in their stores, and they're kind of stuck for the short term with what they got. And but there's some other stuff they still can get, like, you can still hop on Amazon and get a big pack of batteries for very cheap and a bunch of cheap LED flashlights and that kind of thing.
And you know what another good system is, Brian, is bartering. I may not have the cash, but I've got other things.
Sure.
That I could trade to get the ammo, trade to get the batteries, trade to get, maybe I can't afford Amazon right now. Look at what you got and what you've got extra of, and see if you've got some bartering power there. Yeah,
that's a good point.
Maybe I've got 16 ARs. I'm not going to need 16 ARs during this time. So maybe
if you've got 16 ARs, you need 2 ARs and night vision.
There you go. So I could trade a couple of those and try to get some night vision.
Well, or said even better, it has never been a better time to sell a used gun in the United States of America.
Ever.
And I don't necessarily suggest I don't think this is ethical, but I'll leave it to you guys that, those piece of shit guns in the corner that you're embarrassed you own and were a really bad idea. great time to unload them. And
I used to have a segment about that on the show.
Oh, really?
It was one of my new guy questions. Is like, all right, do you currently own, or have you ever owned a gun or a piece of kit that you're a little bit embarrassed to admit to have owned? That's funny.
So yeah, for you, that actually might be the path for some of our listeners here to get those groceries or that 100 gallons of water or the batteries is run on down to the gun shop, or if you're in a state where it's legal to do a private party sale, get it going, because holy smokes, is it a seller's market right now. And so boom, maybe that's where you get your cash for this. But Jay, we've kind of talked about food and water, and we discovered in our sort of pregame call the other night that we both have the same number one favorite bang for the buck medical supply. You want to go over what that is and why?
Oh,
diarrhea.
Yeah.
Squirt.
I had to think about it. I had to think about it for a minute. So everybody's got a Walmart, and somewhere near the registers, there's usually a big dump bin where they just take extra stock of generic medications. In there is always a ton of anti-diarrheal medication. And it's always like 88 cents, right? You get I think it's 20 or 30 doses for under $1. I like to sift through it and look at and look at the date codes on it and get and I'm a dick. I cherry pick all the newest ones.
So that's one of the number one ways that children die in the third world is of diarrhea.
Dehydration.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so you have the ability to save potentially untold numbers of children's lives if things get bad with $10 of antidiarrheals.
Right.
Yeah.
There will be statues erected to you in the future. This is like that thing about if you need a full 30-round mag to defend yourself, you're going to be on the nightly news. Yeah. If you save a bunch of kids in your neighborhood, from diarrhea, if things get weird with the water supply,
right?
Boy, what a
hero
thing to have done. You'll be a fucking hero. And so for $5 at Walmart, you can get a hero lottery ticket, and boy, is that cool.
Another thing that I like to have copious amounts of is antihistamines, right? Tons of it. Just tons of it. Just massive amounts of antihistamines. They're good for a million different things. A million different things. Now, when you go into that Walmart and you look into that big bin, dude, pretty much everything that you're kind of sort of looking for there is going to be there. Grab you some aspirin, grab you some ibuprofen, grab you some Tylenol, grab you some acetaminophen. Right, and none of it's name brand. You got to buy it by the chemical, but so what?
Yeah, same stuff.
Right, same stuff. The only stuff that I actually don't buy generic of is Band-Aids. I buy name brand Band-Aids.
Heck yeah,
because they're better, and I like the fabric ones, the no ouchie ones too.
So everybody, contrary to scientific belief, everybody has a time machine in their house, and it's in your freezer. And for most medications, not all, chucking them in a plastic bag in the freezer greatly increases shelf life, especially if you're in a shitty, hot, humid environment.
Fountain of youth for medication.
What's that?
I said freezing is the fountain of youth for medication.
There it is. Now, there's some very notable exceptions. One of them that I'm aware of, and I'm trying to remember, a bunch of the liquid stuff amoxicillin liquid suspension and stuff. I don't think it's a good idea to freeze that, but I don't know for sure. The one that I'm positive of is EpiPens. Do not freeze them. There's a very narrow band of acceptance on them. And it's basically body temperature. Leaving an EpiPen in a car is a really bad idea. And so you guys who have EpiPens, you probably know that already. But there's also a a document floating around on the internet that's a military document. It used to be illegal to talk about it. I don't think it is anymore. And it's something, we'll try and put it in the show notes here. I'll dig it up after the podcast, but it's a study on the long-term shelf life of drugs. And basically, every time you go to the doctor and they give you a prescription, get it friggin' filled, whether you use it or not, and do the same thing of throwing it in the freezer or at least the fridge. Mm-hmm. And you'll build up fairly quickly a pretty good, with how, prescription happy most docs are for antibiotics and that kind of thing. That's a real easy way to stock up. And there is a companion reference that is super useful called, I think, the Nurse's Drug Guide. And you can get an expired or a down, an old one on eBay or Amazon or any kind of used book location. And it has all of the indications, the contraindications, and the milligram per kilogram dosage. And so even if you don't really know what you're doing, well, and hashtag not a doctor, use at your own risk. But if you want the reference guide that the nurses are using to check, what the doctor actually prescribed you at the hospital to make sure it won't kill you, that's the book. And it's like, kind of the thickness of a dictionary, and really good. And the new ones are like hundreds of dollars. The old ones are, $5 or something. So that's another.
And what's it called again? What's the name of that book?
I think it's the Nurse's Drug Guide.
Okay.
And we'll try and post that in the show notes too. I'll make a couple notes here.
Cool.
Well, we've got water, food, and medical kind of covered. There's, Jay, I'll be interested in your top medical training ideas. My favorite so far is from the National Outdoor Leadership School, their Wilderness Medical Institute, and the class is called a WOOFer, a Wilderness First Responder. And for you guys that like training, it's the cheapest deal ever. It's 10 days of instruction, 10 to 12 hours a day, for $700 when I last looked. $70 a day. And you basically get it's life support for when help is more than an hour away. And so austere medical conditions. And it is an extraordinary class. And I have been told by EMTs that have both that the WOOFer or WFR, Wilderness First Responder, is way more useful than EMT certification for your average responsible adult. And so for those that want to get pretty comprehensive training from, mental illness that catastrophically comes on, and it's for like outdoor educators and people leading climbing trips and stuff. And occasionally you'll have somebody lose their marbles on a trip and think about suicide. It's everything from that to, how to safely manipulate one's spine when they've had a fall good enough to break their neck, or MOI, or mechanism of injury. And they have a full diagnostic, with blood sweeps, airway, all that stuff. And, CPR is less than an hour of that enormous time.
Sounds like what they used to teach us in Boy Scouts.
Yeah, it's Boy Scouts on steroids.
Versus the mental health one.
Yeah. Well, it's all one thing, and so highly recommend that. Yeah. Gay, what's your top pick for medical training?
I like to, think in some really super practical terms, and without getting into really inflammatory, outlandish type shit, but infection prevention or infection control or infection mitigation in austere, right? Because dude, you got a lot of people, man, all over the planet that die from little tiny infections because either their sanitation was poor or because they were too lazy or too ignorant to put a little Neosporin on something. And if, there's only so much that you can practically do if you have an abscess in your tooth, right? But there are things that you can do about that. There are things in your household that if you pack a wound with, you can greatly reduce the chances of it getting into a bad infection, which then becomes septic, and then you die because you go into shock and your shit shuts down and you're fucked. So everybody should have a good grasp of first aid. Everybody should have a good grasp of how to apply a tourniquet. Everybody should have a good idea of how to use a high fin chest seal, or it doesn't have to be that brand. Just be able to use a chest seal. That means one in the front, and look to see if there's one that needs to be put in the back. Right? This is all shit that you can Google. This, you know what I mean? But because we're talking about the 2-week crash course.
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean? This is all stuff that you can spend an hour being like, okay, well, cool. So I've got this like hole in this dude's chest. Let me see if there's a hole in his back. Is there? Yes. If so, then put one there too.
Yeah, and this isn't something that as it happens, you're going to get on Google and start looking it up. You want to know how to do this.
There's another great Clint Smith quote that says that in the middle of a gunfight is the wrong fucking time to learn how to shoot.
Right. Yeah. Unlike me working on my Yukon today and watching a video as I'm working and fixing my wiper blades.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Hey, man, the only thing I got to tell you about people that don't know how to change wiper blades,
it's not changing my wiper blades, dickhead. It's
maybe shouldn't,
it's
because
the motor.
Let me tell you how dude, you know how many people crack their windshield changing their wiper blades? It's a lot.
Oh, no, that's brutal.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. I can imagine that. But that was one of the parts I ordered on Amazon today, was a motor.
I will make sure you Google that shit. But then that leads me into something else. You ready? Here's a good one. Do you have any tools? Do you know how to use tools? Can you fix shit?
Yeah, and maybe our solution for those who maybe have kind of a clue but don't have a good toolkit. Everybody likes to shit on. What's that?
Make friends who do.
Well, that's a great solution. That should lead us into maybe what we close out on. But I was going to say, everybody likes to shit on Harbor Freight, but we use a lot of their tools, and I don't like supporting China, but I do what I can to buy American made. If you show up to Harbor Freight with $50, you're going to leave with a lot of hand tools.
Oh, dude, I'm telling you, yeah.
And
here's another thing for the hand tools, okay? Another good tip. This time of year, people are having yard sales and stuff too. And you go to a yard sale and you can get, you take that $50 and you can get double what you get at Harbor Freight going to yard sales and auctions and stuff.
No, it's an absolute fact. But I mean, like, look, check it out. You know what I mean? Say if there's a suspension of services, you think your fucking plumber's going to come out to fix your shitter?
No,
totally not. Not unless he's your homeboy.
No, or your car breaks down. Another prime example.
Well, you know what I mean? Like, should you have the things on hand at your home or apartment to be able to fix a water leak? Yes. Right. Yeah. And then as your skill level increases, so should your level of preparedness to be able to service more sophisticated systems.
Yeah.
Right.
What would you say the 5 most important hand tools are that every household should have? The 5. Top 5.
Channel locks. A good set of channel locks.
Mm-hmm.
A good set of vice grips.
Okay.
Good flathead screwdriver.
Yeah.
Good Phillips head screwdriver. A Torx set.
Okay, that's 5. What about a hammer?
Fuck you need a hammer for? When was the last time you used a hammer? I ain't hanging fucking pictures in the parlor.
When I was banging on that windshield wiper motor today.
I'm sure you were. I'm sure that you were. Yeah, because you could probably actually just take some electro clean and spray off the brushes on that thing and probably just clean it out. But, what do I know?
I don't know.
So I want to play this game too if I only get 5 tools here.
All right,
my list is super close. I'm going to say a utility knife.
I didn't even go there with that. Everybody needs a good knife. Damn good.
It goes without saying you got to have a knife, right?
It goes without saying. Like a fixed blade and a folder.
Well, And I'm going to say, actually, I'm going to change that to a multi-tool like a Gerber or a Leatherman.
There you go. I like that.
Everybody got one of those.
Yeah.
And then a 6-in-1 screwdriver.
Yes.
Yep.
I'm with Jay on the good pair of vice grips. And I'm going to say a roll of duct tape, which is different from what Jay's talking about. But you know, if I could only have 5 items to fix everything in my house, roll of duct tape and then a roll of paracord, I think is what I would pick.
Okay.
Just for lashing shit together and getting whatever I need to do to get where I need to go. I think those are the 5 things that I would pick.
Yeah. Duct tape, definitely. Have lots of duct tape on hand.
Well, dude, the stuff you can do with paracord is wild. And I'm not talking about making bracelets. It's just, we use it for everything.
Yeah. And you can
really
break paracord down to those individual, its individual components too, and even do even more stuff with it. Yeah, it's amazing what you can do.
I once used paracord when I broke an accessory belt on my truck.
No way.
Yeah, it worked for a while, like a long while. It worked.
I used paracord on my windshield wipers until my motor comes in.
Man. So shall we go to our last topic of the self-sufficient?
Let's do, because I mean we could go on for hours on this. So, but like we said earlier, we want to break this up into different segments. So, let's wrap it up with this one.
So yeah, this idea of being self-sufficient is a complete fucking myth, and having friends and people you can rely on is a giant deal, and that can be really hard depending on where you're at. And I wanted to share one method for making friends. You know, we're in a new neighborhood and we've moved in since COVID. And so it's been a weird experience to meet the neighbors. And one of my guys runs a mobile pizza kitchen where he's got, you know, a pizza oven on a flatbed, and he drives it around with a buddy of his to parties and stuff. And he just had a client last weekend who had moved into a neighborhood and hosted a socially distanced block party where the pizza truck came in, and, you know, those guys were all masked up and wearing gloves and everything, and taking the pizza directly out of the oven with gloves onto a plate, you know, and serving it to people, and everybody could just stand 6 feet apart and have a really low risk, safe kind of fun experience. And everybody's starving for social contact these days. And so that's one real easy way to open the door a little bit. Jay, what other ideas do you have for figuring out who your neighbors and friends and allies are going to be, and who to steer clear of?
Go walk the dog. Go walk the dog. Go play the game. Go play Meet the Neighbors. See who's cool, see who's not. You'll know. And, you know, while, you know, some of us have had some limited opportunity to, you know, work from home and have interactions with our neighbors, you know, see who's actually just an apartment dweller and who actually lives in a house, even though it's a house, right? You want to know who lives on your street. And ideally, you want to find out the people on your street that you can be friends with. And I'm not particularly social, but I know who on my street is solid. I also know who on my street is a liability. I also know on my street who is a potential threat. And you can do that with interacting with them. You can do that by social profiling them. You can do that by, you know, having the kids play with their kids. And if their kids are douchey, they're probably douchey.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Because, you know, have the neighborhood kids come over and play at your house for a change. See what the kids are actually talking about. See how they share. Did those kids share? If those kids don't share, their parents teach them like shit.
Their parents don't share. Yeah.
Their parents probably don't share.
They're not going to be. You don't want them as part of your tribe.
No, that's true. And the people who don't share are usually the people who are going to come knocking, asking you for your shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, maybe you could give us a few words, Jay, on OPSEC and how much you share, how quickly, or how much you don't share.
Well, that's a good point. And, you know, the thing is that we're all also, you know, because everything's a two-way street. So if you're looking at your neighbors, you can bet that some of your neighbors are looking at you too. Now, I have some neighbors that I know, you know, might have themselves an AR and maybe got themselves a Glock 9 or Glock 40. But, you know, we don't talk about guns because I ain't telling them shit. Now, on the flip side of that coin is that my across the street neighbor, who I'm very friendly with, he says to me at the onset of COVID, because he got panicky, he's like, hey, I know you got a bunch of guns. And I said, really? What makes you say that?
Hey, how do you know that, motherfucker?
Right? I said, well, what makes you say that? And he goes, man, I know what you do for a living, you know, because we chat and we hang out and, you know, bullshit and our kids and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And you got that big ass refrigerator looking thing in your garage. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, hey, check this out. I'm like, you want to stay friendly? And he goes, yeah. And I'm like, cool. I'm like, never, ever motherfucking tell anybody what you even suspect that I fucking might have.
Keep it to yourself, buddy.
Right. And he looked at me because that set him back a little bit. And I'm like, look, man, I like you. We're cool. You're my across the street neighbor. I said, I'm not going to let anything, you know, unnecessarily happen, you know, on our end of the street.
He got the point, I assume.
He totally got the point. We're copacetic. Everything's cool. He gets it, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is that, like, dude, nothing is fucking anybody's business.
Right.
Anything that you give up better be fucking voluntary, because, like, quite seriously, it ain't anybody's fucking business. I don't play this fucking, like, you know, hey, check out my thing game, right?
Why advertise your assets?
We don't do that.
You know, you don't advertise your asset. And now, when we get into, and we talked about this a little bit in the prior episodes, was, you know, when you're building, you know, that clique, that neighborhood clique, that group of people, you know, that's the people that, all right, Jay's handling this, I'm handling this. When the shit hits the fan, you know, I've got this covered, Jay's got this covered. You know,
right.
that's when you start getting, you know, intimate and sharing, you know, your knowledge. But otherwise,
right.
If you're prepping and you're storing this food, you're storing these meds, don't go out and brag about it. Don't tell people about it.
No, absolutely not. And, you know, I have a handful of neighbors that, you know, that we've all commonly spoken that, you know, we all have something for a rainy day. And, you know, some of them are LE. They all come and ask me, you know, hey man, do you know where I can score this? Or do you know, hey man, my aim point's doing this thing. Do you know how come? And, like, they know that I know more than they do. And most of us are a certain type of dude that most people are going to gravitate towards as leadership. Right. And in that social dynamic, you have to you'll have to choose whether or not you want to assume that that position of leadership in your community.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a real hazard too, is that as you start getting more squared away, you will know that others are watching when they say, boy, when the shit hits the fan, I'm coming over to your house.
Right. I get that all the time.
And unfortunately, that is precisely the time to get serious as cancer with them, in the way that Jay said, where if you don't stop them up short, they're going to think that there's an arrangement where you're going to take care of them if things get weird. And that is precisely the time to say to them, because there's no better time. There's not going to be a better time to say it. that, nah, bro, I'm happy to share what I know, but you are responsible for you.
Right.
And to call, and also to kind of give them the J talk of that, what I have is nobody else's business.
Yeah.
And so, please, in whatever polite or not polite way that you want to put it, let them know that it is not okay within the bounds of your relationship together to share the information that other party has about you or what they think they know about you.
And then here's another little tidbit that I practice.
Okay, let's wrap it up with that one.
All right. If you have 300 rounds of ammunition, you actually have 3 piles of 100. And do not keep 300 rounds all in one place.
And that could be said for any of your assets.
Yep.
Any of your assets. Don't keep everything all in the same place. It is perfectly acceptable, and I would encourage that you stage things in different places. Now, that could be different places in your house, different places on your property, some stuff at your house, some stuff at a public storage.
Well, and there's a real easy way to go with that too, or if you've got a buddy in town who's not near you and you guys trade, trunks, and you put a padlock on your trunk and that buddy agrees to hide it under a blanket in the corner of his garage and you do the same for him. It's a bit like cost averaging.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Be like, I'm going to give you some corn, you give me some cabbage.
Yep.
So these are some excellent tips, not just for the upcoming hurricane of the election, that we're experiencing, but just being prepared, being a responsible person, individual. We're going to get into more of this in upcoming episodes. So if there's something that you're like, oh, they didn't talk about it here, we're probably eventually going to get to it. But send me an email, talkinglead@gmail.com, and let me know things that you would specifically like us to address or talk about.
Totally. Or you can DM me on the Instagram, and I'd be glad to bring it up to Lefty, and we can include it there also.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're all reachable. We're all we all respond. We're responsive. Brian at Occam Defense Solutions, Jay at the League of Pirates, and then of course Talking Lead. You guys know where we're at. Facebook, Instagram. I like to get the emails though. So shoot me the emails with the subject, and it's easier for me to keep up with that way. But I do check, from time to time the messages on social media. So great, yeah.
So, and sometimes you like it when people fax things, like grandpa shit stuff too, right?
Yeah, faxing is always great. If you send me a fax, I'll get right back to you, definitely. Just send that to 1-800-555-FUCK-YOU.
Oh, man.
On the fax machine. Oh, my gosh, faxing. I remember when they faxing, people still wanted to fax, and they made it electronic. So if it came in, it just sent you an email. Because there's still people that was like, well, what's the point in faxing now? Now it's an email. Just send a fucking email. I didn't get that technology.
Oh, man, you're so privileged. Maybe they don't have email.
Well, I don't think they even make fax machines anymore, do they? Do they still?
Yeah, they actually totally still make fax machines.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, still totally make fax machines. They're totally retarded, but they absolutely do.
Yeah. Okay. I guess they still do telegraphs too, don't they?
Well, there's Telegram, which is pretty cool. Everybody should be using that too. But
is that an app?
Yeah, it's a little app that does a thing.
Okay. Speaking of apps, it's been a while since what's that new app you guys were trying to get me to get on?
Grinder? That one?
Grinder, yeah. Yeah. No, the
that one's fire.
Parlay or Parlor.
Yes.
Parlor.
Yeah.
Yeah, Parlor.
How's that going for you guys?
It's going pretty decently. It's like, an alternative to, the dumb shit.
Okay. Well, I still haven't checked into it, but I have every intentions of checking into it.
It legitimately actually does seem that it's gaining traction in a certain demographic, which may actually, be beneficial to certain types of people.
Okay. And speaking of,
that kind of hurt, man. It's like I got smart for a minute.
you did. I mean, that all came together in one sentence.
I know, it's like weatherman.
But speaking of new services, I've mentioned this, and we're working on it with Full 30. We're going to be joining the Full 30 network soon.
Yeah. Are you really?
Absolutely. And they're revamping what Full 30 is, how you see it, how you interact with it, a new website, all kinds of new things too. So we're going to do I talked to Jared today about this, and we're going to do a collaboration with Full 30 on the release of when Talking Lead joins Full 30 and the release of their, the new Full 30, we'll call it. And we're going to have a big giveaway. Yeah, we're going to.
Jared's one of my top 10 favorite people. Just want to say that.
Jared Markle, yeah, great dude.
Yeah.
Super great dude. Little fedora, absolutely.
Oh my God.
So we're going to have a big giveaway contest, kind of like we did our last one with the Gleam, with Mission First. We're going to be bringing in, just no telling who all and what all we're going to be giving away. But that's coming over the next month or so. So stay tuned for that. Something for you guys to look forward to. So as you can expect, there's going to be guns and knives and trains and hookers and blow and that we're going to be giving away, right?
I'm in.
But no, there's going to be some cool stuff. So stay tuned for that. We're going to officially make that announcement coming up soon. We just want to give you a little teaser there. And then, like always, make sure you go and support those that support the Talking Lead podcast. Kel-Tec Weapons on social medias, on Facebook, on their website, and, of course, at your local gun store. Go and buy those guns when you can find them. And we're going to be talking with Chad coming up soon, Kel-Tec, about their new Sub 2000 CQB, the integrally suppressed Sub 2000. And I think it's 9. I don't know that they're going to be doing a 40 in that. They might, but right now they've got a 9mm. But it is something, I can tell you that. It's sweet. Fiocchi Ammo USA. Check them out on social medias, Instagrams, and of course at your local retailer. Go buy their ammo. Occam Defense Solutions. You want the most badass AK-47, AKM style rifle, you go to Occam Defense Solutions to get that ODS 1775, whether you want it in a rifle. And I assume that you guys are still doing the pistols as well.
We sure are. Yep.
Not been affected by this bullshit ATF decision or whatever you want to call it, ruling. Go check them out. And you got swag too, man. You've got shirts, you got stickers, you got patches.
We got all that stuff, free shipping every day. We figure everybody's kind of used to being on Amazon, and what you see is what you pay. Our long out of stock Occam Lube product is coming back on the shelf in the next couple of weeks here.
Nice.
They're being built right now. We made the mistake of having a couple parts injection molded in China, which is a mistake I'm trying to reverse. And the holdup on those was extreme, but now we've got those in hand, and we got some good folks in Minnesota making them for us now.
Very nice. And then your rear sight towers that you've brought back.
Yeah, we're making those in-house now. We used to make them, have other folks make them for us, but they're all homegrown now. And we have a big batch of those at Heat Treat at the moment. Those should be back in stock in the next week or two.
Yeah, and then as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be doing that AK-47 training class here in Nashville with 212 Training Group, Occam Defense, Talking Lead. We'll be releasing the information for that coming soon, where you'll be able to sign up. And I think 20 right now is going to be the limit on that. So that's going to fill up fast. So once we release that, we'll give you all the info on it, links and everything where you can go. You could sign up for that course. It's at Royal Range, USA here in Nashville. And we're looking forward to Brian coming down. He's going to have a couple of the ODS 7075s that in between our breaks you're going to be able to shoot, try out, get some hands-on with those. We're going to have some giveaways as well with shooting courses, classes that are hosted by Talking Lead. We make it fun, and we try to give everybody a little something that they can walk away with other than their education that they're getting from the instructors there. So Jared's going to be an awesome instructor for you guys there at 212 Training.
Yeah, Jared and I first met at a Haley class that he was instructing on and became fast friends. And his particular take on firearms is really firearms training and manipulation is really good. I've also seen him in competition, and he is one hell of a shooter. And so has a lot to teach. And he's also one of the most humble people I've ever met. And he's a professional. Good.
Outstanding dude. Just outstanding dude.
Yep. Yeah, he's kind of like Texas personified. Like he's not only is he a teacher and a diesel mechanic, but he's a horseshoer and a horse trainer and a gun trainer, and is just, like I said, super humble and polite and just a joy to talk with. So great teacher, and I'm looking forward to helping out a bit there. But my chief reason for being there is for hanging out with the leadheads, and I mean, I may get to shoot a little bit with you guys, but in general, it's for me to hang out with you guys. So,
right. And you never know what other personalities may show up.
Yes, yeah, yeah. We have some friends that look like they're going to be showing up too. So it's going to be a cool event.
Yeah.
Yep.
And once we make the announcement there, we'll be able to talk about those personalities and some other things that we're going to be doing there. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a very good training course, the AK course that 212 does, but it's also going to be really fun and rewarding for the lead heads. So that's all I'll say about that for right now. Mission First Tactical, use that discount code LEADHEAD, get 20% off over at Mission First Tactical. If you want to get a really cool gift for your significant other, a good buddy, your dad, your brother, whoever it may be, they need a holster, they need some furniture for their AR-15, or you want to go get awesome just a dump tray for all your EDC shit at the end of the night. Instead of scratching up your counter, get one of these cool Talking Lead EDC trays. We've got them in the AK corner, and we've got our classic logo, and they've got the Leadhead Brigade also. You can get it in the Leadhead Brigade logo, and those cool tactical wallets that they've got too. Make great gifts. Of course, it's the holiday season's coming up. Why not go ahead, stock up, get your presents? Who knows what's going to be available come Christmas time. You might want to go ahead and start your Christmas shopping. I know a lot of places are talking about doing the Black Friday, going ahead and start doing the Black Friday. They've already started it. So,
yeah, it's a weird one.
Again, being a responsible, individual, the shit that's coming down the pike, so get prepared for it.
Oh, hey, I just figured out the dumbest place to be in America on Black Friday. And that's at Walmart or any of these stores if they do like the big giveaways where they're fist fight in general.
Yeah.
That strikes me as a really great place to avoid this year.
Yeah. Don't ever do all your shopping online. Hell. Of course, that defeats what Jay was saying earlier about on-demand delivery.
Yeah. Well, and there's that supporting your local gun. The local gun shop is where you might meet some of your future cronies.
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah,
but a lot of them you can shop online too.
Sure.
But it doesn't hurt to go in and visit and check out stuff. So.
No, and then another important thing here that is totally unrelated but still totally valid is that with the proliferation of home delivery, you're also not keeping people employed.
Yep.
So,
yep.
Not only should you be shopping locally, or buying locally, shopping local. Is that what it is?
Buy local.
But right. But, instead of going to big box stores, go to mom and pops and, try to go into mom and pops as often as possible because that's money that actually stays in your local economy instead of these, globalist shitbag transnationals.
There you go. Eat at the local food truck. Don't go to McDonald's.
Mom and pops, man. Just shop at mom and pops.
I hate McDonald's anyway. I've boycotted
Haven't
McDonald's for decades now.
Dude, seriously, I haven't been in one in like forever.
Yeah, it's been decades. Oh, and then of course, get the cool Talking Lead apparel, the AK Corner apparel from Factory 47. James has really done an excellent job on these hoodies, the t-shirts, and our tumblers. Factory47.com. That's factory with a K, FAKTORY.com. Use the code LEADHEAD, and you're going to get 10% off your order there. So go ahead and get those before they sell out over the holidays too. I've seen some of you leadheads have already started posting your pictures. You've received your AK Corner shirts and you're making the post. So I want to see those as those are coming in. Post on social medias, tag Talking Lead, tag Factory 47, tag Occam Defense Solutions, tag the League of Pirates, tag us all, and support that. Sport that stuff out there. Let's see it. I want to see it. Last time we had a big T-shirt release, we did a contest. So, just saying, could be coming. And then, of course, our classic shirts, you go to 1776united.com. You get the classic logo and the Leadhead Brigade T-shirts there. And patches, we got the patches, the Leadhead Brigade patches there. And then dip123.com. Get our classic leadies with our classic logos over there from Danny at Dipstick Hydrographics. It's dip123.com. And he's got the different sizes of leadies over there, too. One day I'll get everything consolidated, but I like sending people out to all my buddies, I like to try to spread the love.
We appreciate that.
We're going to be back with more of this liberty, self-ownership talks. Who knows? But coming up also, I said we're trying to get, what's the guy's name? SB Tactical? Alex from SB Tactical. So if that happens, it could be a bonus show for this month that I put out there. So hopefully we get him in the next couple of days, and we're going to put that out, get his take on this ATF coming down on Q. And, in reality, they're coming down on SB braces is what they're doing. So,
Ultimately.
yeah. Until then, leadheads, as always, keep your loved ones close.
And your firearms closer.
And your favorite submission.
And hit that Walmart diuretic aisle.
Diarrheal.
Diarrheal aisle.
Anti-diarrheal.
There you go.
You can go to Taco Bell for the diarrheal, but you'll get the anti-diarrheal at Walmart.
If you find a price better than 88 cents, let me know, and we'll let Jay know.
Awesome.
Outtakes.
That's
Boobies.
ridiculous. Boobies. I gotta get a drink. I got something in my throat. Hold on. Fuck.
I'm going to grab a water real quick while the getting's good.
All right, fine. Be that way. I came prepared.
I think I just inhaled the COVID.
You got to change the water in your bong, man.
Jeez. Something just like latched onto the inside of my throat and started closing it.
All right, that's making me just like 3% more horny.
Boobies. So, as I was attacked by COVID there.
Yeah, I would do that because,
Hey, guys, sorry about that.
It's all right. You up and running now? You good?
Yeah, I'm swapping between two laptops right now, and the battery I'm switching to ate a dick. And
you got to put some quarters in it or something?
Yeah, I have to put more quarters in, and for whatever reason. So, yes, it's unconstitutional, but, is that really... It's not a hill I want to die on.
Is that really a thing?
Is it really a thing?
Is that like for real? Is like the Constitution like a real thing?
It's not really a thing anymore, and Yeah, the
subject to
Constitution.
change.
It's yeah, no, like in all honesty, I don't know that many people that really give a shit about it.
Yeah.
I don't think the Constitution's a real thing.
No, I think you can just change on the fly to meet, your needs at the time.
I think you can just make up rules as you go along, and if you don't like what somebody else does, move the goalpost.
Yeah. Exactly.
Totally.
And that's what they're grilling. What's her name? Barrett.
They asked her,
Are
if
you
she
going to
had ever-
rule against this? Are you going to rule against that? It's like, well, I got to see the
You know that
fucking
they-
case first. I can't give you an answer right now, you dumbasses.
You know that they asked her if she ever sexually assaulted anyone before today?
Are you serious?
Yeah,
You know,
they asked her if she's ever sexually assaulted anyone.
Oh, we
and
got to
I'm just
talk
like,
about that. We got to talk about that. All right, let's do the show. Let's start.
all right.
Let's start this. Shit.
Boobies.